Today, on my talking head on Restore Nigerian Network, I will dwell on the calamitous state of the national economy and the upcoming opportunity for us to collectively begin the process of reversal and reconstruction of our much battered economy. But first, let me take us on a short trip into history and to look at the history of the rise and fall of our national economy. From where we were heading to, before we turned and then arrived at the destination which we are today. This is the story of the transition of the Nigerian economy from a ripe to a fire economy. It tells how we set on fire an economy that was about to ripe. At the time of our independence, the federal and regional governments of the short-lived First Republic were able to develop the country into an agricultural powerhouse, which was not only self-sufficient in food production, but was also a global leader in the export of many industrial crops such as cocoa, coffee, cotton, groundnuts, palm oil, rubber, and hide and skin, in addition to the production of solid minerals like tin, tantalite, and columbite, and energy feedstock like coal and oil and gas. Then, the military government of General Yakubu Gowon that followed not only continued in this trajectory, but began the industrialization process of the country, stepping up from the wholesale export of agricultural produce and energy materials, and began the building of factories and facilities for the processing of agricultural produce into manufactured end products. This was how facilities such as textile mills, oil mills, feed mills, tanneries, shoe factories, tire factories, refineries, and power plants proliferated the states of the country. In fact, any businessman of those days has to be a factory owner to be taken seriously. Jobs were being created daily in agriculture, manufacturing, industrial production, and energy sectors, and employment was an unknown word in the Nigeria of those days. From here, the next government of General Murtala Mohammed that followed took the next step forward and began the serious industrialization of the country through their program of import substitution, in which the government was determined to replace any imported item with a locally manufactured alternative. In fact, General Murtala's vision and his stated target was to ensure that if Nigeria cannot easily get into the superpower level, then the Nigerian economy must be at the same level as a medium-level European economy such as France within the next 10 years. Under Murtala, our Naira was a superpower, and it was openly traded in the major cities of the world, and the Nigerian economy was moving on a path of rapid industrialization. Now, this was the unforgivable sin Murtala committed, and we set the Nigerian economy on a geo-economic collision course with Western economies. The imperial powers took notice of the threat which our rising economy was posing, and which was beginning to position Nigeria as a potential geopolitical rival. And as we all know, for this offense, General Murtala Mohammed paid with his life, even as our imperial overlords set on motion the process to contain and destroy the Nigerian economy. However, the civilian MPN government of Shehu Shagari, which itself was basically the baby of General Olusegun Obasanjo and General Shehu Musa Yar'Adua, both of whom were die-hard acolytes of General Murtala Mohammed, continued the industrialization of the Nigerian economy. The Shagari government successfully completed massive jobs, employment, and wealth-creating projects such as the Alaja Itakpe Iron Ore Project, the Ajokuta Steel Plant, numerous steel rolling mills that were scattered across the country, the Oshogbo Machine Tool Factory, and a number of fertilizer and petrochemical plants were created. However, for not learning their lessons and for persisting on the course of building a ripe economy, the MPN government of Shehu Shagari was kicked out and the Second Republic was terminated. Let me at this stage explain that, as a general norm, national economies fall under two broad categories or models. These are ripe or fire economies, and global geoeconomics centers on the rivalry between the two economic models. A ripe economy which is the model of the Nigerian economy, up to the NPN government of President Shehu Shagari, is described as a resources, industry, production, and energy-based economy. Hence, the RIPE acronym. It is an economy that is based on the proliferation of the production of agriculture and mineral resources, industrial manufactured goods, and energy such as coal and oil and gas. On the other hand, a fire economy is a financialized economy. That is an economy that is based on the proliferation of financial institutions such as banks, insurance, real estate, and entertainment services. Hence, the FIRE acronym. Essentially, while a ripe economy is a production economy, a fire economy is largely a deindustrialized and a consumption-based economy. It is an economy in which banking, insurance, real estate, and hotels dominate. The overthrow of the civilian MPN government of President Shehu Shagari and the coming of the General Ibrahim Babangida regime marked the final turning point of the Nigerian economy. This is the point of inflection and a change in direction from the production-based ripe economy into a consumption-based fire economy, which is proliferated with banking, insurance, and real estate, and hotels for entertainment services, with little or zero production and manufacture. This reversal of all the industrialization gains of the previous governments came about when in 1985 the IBB government was lured into the seductive embrace of the Bretton Woods sisters, the IMF and the World Bank, who baited him first to swallow their green pill loans as a cure for some ill-diagnosed, deliberately induced economic malaise of our country. With this, the economy was caught and held fast in an inescapable debt trap. And then the IMF and the World Bank opened shop and were confirmed as resident doctors of the sick Nigerian economy. Ultimately, in 1986, they prescribed and ordered General Ibrahim Babangida and his government to swallow their next standard prescription, which is in the form of a red pill drug, which is called devaluation. With this act done, Babangida announced the second-tier foreign exchange market, FEM as it was popularly known. Factually, the coming of FEM in 1986 was an epochal and watershed moment in the history of the Nigerian economy. FEM tore the economy to pieces. The naira lost its luster and value as it depreciated rapidly. This gave rise to the rapid deindustrialization of the country and the beginning of the dollarization and financialization of the Nigerian economy. Commercial agricultural estates went bust. Factories and manufacturing industries, big and small, packed up. Some going bankrupt. Others had their assets sold off as their owners turned overnight into importers of the same products they used to make locally, while some others relocated their manufacturing businesses to other countries. As manufacturers fled and ran away from the economy, they were replaced by finance services, such as banks and insurance businesses, who promoted the importation of every conceivable item and the turning over of factories and farmlands into real estate buildings and hotels for leisure and entertainment. FEM was therefore the main weapon used by IMF and the World Bank to defeat the Nigerian economy and to force it to change from a ripe, productive economy into a consumption-based fire economy. This is a short history of the rise and fall of our national economy. Let me at this stage tell a personal story on this reversal of the national economy, and which will also explain my suggested way out of the present economic quagmire we find ourselves in. In the late 80s, I think it was in 1989, I was employed by an Italian engineering services company called San Marco Montaghi, and I was made the technical assistant to the expatriate managing director of the company, an Italian-Canadian citizen called Dr. Luciano Gallinari. The company itself was a joint venture with a Nigerian chairman at the head, and were engaged in the turnkey engineering, procurement, and installation of equipment and machineries for Nigerian manufacturing factories. as of necessity. Being an engineering company, we are members of the Engineering Services Trade Group of the Lagos Chambers of Commerce and Industry, which was probably one of the most powerful groups in the chambers, and comprised of virtually all the manufacturing companies that were located in Lagos, including giants like Levantis Group, UAC, Eleganza Group, and so on. Now, one of my assignments was to represent the company in the bi-weekly meetings of the Engineering Services Trade Group that used to take place at the Victoria Island Secretariat of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. In the course of this bi-weekly routine, I made friends and formed a very close bond with a certain Mr. Pridlo Popeni, who was the general manager of a company called Vivaldi International. Pridlo Popeni was actually a sibling of Admiral Festus Popeni, that famous chief in the Nigerian Navy. And Vivaldi, the company he headed, was a local subsidiary of an Israeli pharmaceutical company. Later, Vivaldi ventured into the local assembly of their Vivaldi brand of Israeli air conditioners in Nigeria. And Mr. Pridlo Popeni was put in charge of this business. While Vivaldi was located on Wharf Road, that is in Apapa, Lagos, my company Samako was based at Ijora. And since Ijora was in between Apapa and Victoria Island, Pridlo Popeni formed a convenient routine for me. Each time we have a meeting, he would drive from his Apapa office through Ijora to pick me so that we could drive together in his official car to Victoria Island to attend our meetings. But as convenient as this was for me, almost every time at the end of our meetings, he would insist that I follow him to a house that was located somewhere in Ikoyi. It was a place he used to call his best showroom. However, this so-called showroom was actually a highbrow, very big and luxurious residential building. One thing that was constant in that place was the constant flow of high society visitors coming in and coming out of that house. When we arrive, we will park and go into the house. And then while I find a place to just sit down and watch, Popeni will go in. He will look around, ask some people questions, chat with some of the guests who were in the house. Then he will take notes in his jotter. And then within 10 to 20 minutes, we will leave. After a number of times, I had to ask him what all this visit was all about. Then he informed me that that place, that residence, was the house of a retired custom officer who recently invested in their company. And it was this investment that helped that company to complete their air conditioning factory in Apapa. But then I also knew that Vivaldi, that's the company, has over 20 other directors on their board, both Nigerians and Israelis. I had to ask him why it was this particular director he likes to take us to visit almost every time, religiously. He looked at me and said, "This man is special to us." He said that for him, the man's house is the best showroom for their Vivaldi air conditioners in Lagos. He then explained that when he visits the houses of most of the other directors of their company, he sees mostly foreign-made air conditioners installed in their houses. But from the time this particular man joined the board of their company, he insisted that only their made in Nigeria Vivaldi air conditioners were installed in every room of his massive Ikoyi house. And also because this man has so many top-level people always visiting him, he, Popeni, wants to make sure that all the air conditioners in the house are always working. He said, as you can see, every time we come to this house, you can see Oga always pressing our air conditioners. And for this, most of his rich associates who I meet in the house will always inquire, and finally they will end up ordering and buying our air conditioners. So he said, for me, for him, this man, even though he was a director on the board of their company, was also the best marketer of their made in Nigeria air conditioners. And his house is the best showroom for the company. Well, everything was going well for Vivaldi and Mr. Popeni until second-tier foreign exchange market, FEM, came. And then, as it was said, things fall apart. Everything fell apart. The dollar knocked down on overthrew the naira, which made it much more profitable to import things. And then importation knocked out and overthrew local manufacturing, local agriculture, and local production. The end result of all this was that Vivaldi and almost all the manufacturing companies that were located in and around Lagos, and in fact in most states of the country, began folding up. My friend Prilo Pobeni lost his job, became sick with depression, and died a few years later. But how I wish Prilo Pobeni was alive today, to see that he was right about everything he said about the man we are talking about. He could have seen that the man has totally validated his assessment and continued to show uncommon belief, support, and commitment to the development of a resources, industrialized, productive, and energy-sufficient Nigerian economy, a ripe economy. A man who continues to make massive personal investments in farming, energy logistics, and productive manufacturing companies like the massive Faro Beverages Company, the massive Ricogado feed mills, and many other manufacturing companies, even at this time when conditions are much worse than they were in 1990s. Of course, the man we are talking about is no other than the inimitable Atiku Abubakar. And I strongly believe that had Mr. Prilo Pobeni been alive today, he will be asking Atiku Abubakar where he found the know-how and the courage to enter a field where even lion-hearted men could not dare to, and from which they all flee away from. Because at this time, when other people are daily turning their commercial farms into residential, real estates, and hotel developments, where they are selling off their factories to form banks and becoming foreign exchange merchants, container importers, and international traders, and thereby piling up all the endless pressure that has destroyed the naira and brought the economy to its knees. Atiku Abubakar, from the time of his retirement from public service, has remained loyal and faithful to the economy of wealth and employment generation through agriculture, manufacturing, and industrialization, and which is the only viable way to resuscitate, salvage, and restore our distressed and damaged economy, and to bring it back to its former glory. It is now over 2 decades, over 20 years, since the change in direction of our national economy, from a productions and industrializing economy into a consumption and a financialized economy, in which farmlands are being turned every day into hotels and residential real estate properties, in which every street corner of our cities and towns are getting dotted with banks, bureau de change, and supermarkets which are filled with imported goods, and during which the only progress we have made is that crime, joblessness, and unemployment have reached such levels that our country has earned for itself the unenviable title of the poverty capital of the world. Clearly, very clearly, our economic collapse has reached rock bottom. But as it is said, as it is always said, everything that has a beginning has an ending. Mercifully, the time that is set aside by the Constitution for us to change power in order to make progress is coming, just as the hourglass of the present APC government is fast running out. The elections of February 2023 is a unique opportunity which we have to correct the mistakes of 1985 and to begin our reversal from an economy long set on fire and to start restoring it into a truly ripe economy. In doing this, we have a very clear choices to make and choose from. On one side, we have PDP, who is presenting Atiku Abubakar, a man with visible and provable credentials of investment in wealth and employment generating productive businesses, cutting across farming, agriculture, manufacturing, industrialization, energy, and logistics. Therefore, in this election, electing Atiku Abubakar as president will mean the returning of the Nigerian economy into a resources, industry, production, and an energy-based economy, aka a ripe economy. While on the other hand, and on the other side of the divide, we have parties such as MPP, who are presenting Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, who is a salaried bureaucrat and a careerist, turned an entitled power-mongering politician. No other credentials. And then we have Labour Party, who are presenting Mr. Peter Obi, a professional banker, turned foreign exchange demanding container importer and a supermarket chain trader. No other credential of production. And then you have the APC, who want to give all the Bola Tinubu, a corny bookkeeping and accountant, turned tax collector in chief and the master landlord of Lagos. No credential of production, no credential of manufacturing. All of these people are clearly the disciples of the continuation of the present economic model of a financialized, insurance, and a real estate-based economy. An economy that has brought and will continue to bring even more unemployment, joblessness, and poverty. Let the truth be told. If we must save the Naira, create jobs and wealth, and restore the economy to the path of production and industrialization, we must move quickly and embrace the apostle of a ripe economy and send all the disciples of the fire economy to hellfire. As the saying goes, a pot or a kettle can only drip what is inside it, and nobody can give what he does not have. Hence, when it comes to the matter of restoring, rebuilding, and reindustrializing the economy, Atiku knows. Therefore, in 2023, vote for a ripe economy, vote for Atiku, vote for PDP.